Do you want to be able to ride and see everything at Universal Studios Hollywood all in one day? Stay tuned for some extremely helpful tips when visiting the entertainment capital of Los Angeles. Hello and welcome to World of Immersion, where we cover all things related to theme parks, big and small, from the rides to the food and everything in between. Today we are going to be talking about some of the most useful tips you can use to make the most of your next visit, or maybe even your first ever visit, to Universal Studios Hollywood. Universal Studios Hollywood is one of the most famous theme parks in the world, drawing thousands of people every day to its gates. Every day, the park is super crowded and the lines for the rides can get super long. This video will help make sure that you make the most of your day at Universal and help you see everything you want to in the park. Starting off with our first tip. Plan your Universal trip for a day that won't be as crowded if you can. If you are able to, planning your Universal trip for a weekday and a time that is not a normal holiday break can greatly impact your trip to Universal. On weekdays, you should have no trouble riding all of the rides and seeing all of the shows, even all before lunchtime. The wait should be very minimal and the park shouldn't be very crowded. Late January to early March is usually the least crowded time of the year as well. Also, non-peak days at Universal will be significantly cheaper than peak days, ranging from as cheap as $104 on non-peak days to $134 on the busiest days. For example, here is a price calendar for regular tickets in December. Planning to go on non-peak days will save you time waiting in lines and save you money. However, we know that planning a trip on these days isn't always possible, so that is why we have plenty of other tips to help you if you do end up visiting on a more crowded day. Which brings us to tip number 2. Arrive early. Arriving early at Universal can be the deciding factor between riding everything in one day and missing out on a bunch of the coolest attractions. The park opens around 9 a.m., 10 a.m., or sometimes even as early as 8 a.m. on certain days, so make sure to check the Universal Studios Hollywood website for the most updated hours on the day you plan to go. Plan to arrive at the park at least 30 minutes early before the park opens, because the walk from the parking lot all the way to the entrance is relatively far and can take quite a while. You need to walk all the way through Universal City Walk to get to the main entrance of the park from the parking structures. Which leads us into our next tip. Universal City Walk is an outdoor shopping district located directly next to Universal Studios Hollywood. In fact, like we previously mentioned, you need to walk through it to actually get to the park from the parking structure. City Walk has a huge variety of food locations and is significantly less crowded than the Universal Studios park itself. So, eating in City Walk can be a great time saver. Also, sometimes City Walk can even be less expensive. There are so many different restaurants to choose from and plenty of seating. One idea that can greatly impact your trip to Universal is to arrive much earlier than park open and then eat breakfast in City Walk before the park even opens. It is almost pretty much empty in the mornings and you'll be able to get a quick bite before the crowds arrive. Once you enter the park, you're able to leave at any time and re-enter as long as you hold onto your ticket and get your hand stamped before you leave the park. So, you can leave the park to eat at City Walk and head back in as soon as you are done. Spending some time in City Walk in the middle of the day for lunch is a great way to chill for a bit and take a breather, especially if you have young children with you on your trip. If you decide not to eat in City Walk, try to plan meal times around off times. The lines for food can get really long in the park between 11:30 and 1:30 and again between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. So, if possible, try to not eat at those times. Alright, now that we've covered the basic tips to take into account before you go, let's talk about some tips you can use once you enter the theme park. Universal Studios Hollywood is separated into two areas, the upper lot and the lower lot. and there are many major attractions in both areas. The upper lot includes the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Springfield, and much more, while the lower lot has rides such as Jurassic World and Revenge of the Mummy. While you may be tempted to head to the rides in the upper lot first, that is where the majority of park guests go in the morning. Do not follow everyone else. Instead, head to the lower lot. Start at the main entrance of the park, head towards Springfield, and on your left take the escalators down to the lower lot. The wait times in the lower lot will be extremely low, and you'll definitely be able to get on all the rides down there within less than an hour at most. Next, head to the studio tour, as the line for the tour can get extremely long later in the day. Later in the day, the lines for the rest of the upper lot are going to be significantly lower, as everyone else heads to the lower lot, and it is a perfect time to ride attractions such as Forbidden Journey and the Simpsons ride. Let's move on to the next tip. Use the Universal Studios Hollywood app. The Universal Studios Hollywood app can be extremely helpful on your next visit to the theme park. It allows you to check ride wait times, check show times throughout the day, and allow you to make a virtual queue reservation for the Secret Life of Pets off-the-leash attraction. Once you have the app downloaded, click the rides page, then click Secret Life of Pets the ride, and then press Reserve Virtual Queue. Sometimes the ride does not use a virtual queue, so check the app regularly throughout your day at the park to see updated information on it. Alright, now we're just going to talk about some small tips you can take into account when you're getting in line for a ride or attraction, or getting in line for food. First of all, when you are in line for something, look to see if there's a shorter part of the line. For example, some rides, at some points in the line, split in two. The majority of people will go in the closest one to them, however, a lot of the time that line will be longer, so make sure to find the shortest line, not always the closest. In Jurassic World, the line splits in two right before you board the vehicle, and many people just use the first line and don't even realize that the other line is even actually a line. Another example is in the Wizarding World, the butterbeer carts have two sides, and almost everyone just waits in one line for the side closest to the entrance, even though the other side usually has a lot shorter of a line. Another quick tip, certain rides at Universal will require you to put your bag in a locker. Do not pay for the larger lockers unless you absolutely need them. Many times, the larger, paid lockers are right up front, while the smaller free lockers are in the back or somewhere else. Unless you absolutely need it, you should try to use the smaller lockers, as they can hold a lot in them, and the paid lockers can add up very quickly. If you plan to see any shows at Universal, make sure to check the times for the shows on the mobile app, or check around on the signs throughout the park. And plan to arrive 15 minutes early for each show, as that is when they begin seating, and some of the shows can fill up. And we have one more quick queue line tip, and that is to realize that the wait times posted are almost always overestimated, and to not get discouraged if the wait posted is long. Almost all the time, the wait is less than 75% of the posted wait. On our most recent visit to Universal, we actually tested out a few rides to see how the wait times posted compared to the actual wait. For Transformers the ride, the posted wait was 40 minutes, and we ended up actually only waiting 24 minutes. And even crazier, for Jurassic World, the wait time posted was 45 minutes, and we only waited 18 minutes. So try not to get discouraged by the long wait times posted, because chances are the actual wait is significantly lower, and the lines move very fast. Our final tip is to find the quiet spaces throughout the park. Spending an entire day at a theme park can be really hard, especially for young children, so finding times to relax and chill for a bit can really enhance your day at the park. Here we'll name and show some of the quietest and least crowded locations throughout the resort. One of them is on the second floor of City Walk, right next to the fast food locations. Another one is the pathway between the Wizarding World and the Studio Tour entrance. And our final one is on top of Jurassic Cafe. There's plenty of seating there and nobody is ever up there. It's super quiet. Take advantage of these spots throughout the day to take a break and relax, and maybe even have a meal in these places. And that is all for our tips and tricks for visiting Universal Studios Hollywood. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to us at coastersinc.nmz@gmail.com or reach out to our Instagram account at World of Immersion. Make sure to subscribe for more content like this and for more upcoming tips and tricks videos for more of your favorite theme parks and attractions. Follow us on Instagram at World of Immersion and on TikTok at World_of_Immersion. Thanks for watching.